America, the motion picture. You know what Americans love? Explosions! There is nothing that they enjoy more than blowing stuff up. Rather it be the sky with fireworks, neighborhoods for their gender reveal parties, or other countries to assert their dominance, explosions are as American as apple pie, baseball, and historic revisionism to hide the fact that America was and still is a very racist and a nearly white supremacist country. But do you know where there's a lot of explosions? Movies! Major blockbusters that supply a ridiculous amount of action and go even more over the top than today's cartoons. Seriously, why else do you think Michael Bay is still in business? So imagine if you combine a crazy action-packed blockbuster with the proud tradition of historic revisionism to make the country look better than everyone else, you'd get the ultimate American movie. And who better to deliver this epic feature than the combining forces of Netflix, the creators of Archer, the writer of The Expendables, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and Channing Tatum. So now that we have this ideal version of the founding of America, will this highlight the pride of the country in a ridiculously fun way, or will this match how people view the intelligence of the average American? Let's find out. The story. You know what this movie reminds me of ever since I first heard of it? Team America World Police. It's kind of similar as this over-the-top action-packed comedy that satirizes modern American patriotism. Only this time, instead of Trey Parker and Matt Stone's clever commentary and gross-out gags, the movie features Lord and Miller's filmmaking philosophy of going all out with its unique style, which in this case, it's the comedy of being ridiculous with its historic revisionism. Now, this philosophy has become a signature trait for the duo that made them some of the hottest filmmakers of the business. Even as producers, it was that approach that helped some movies to become highly admired to the point of being considered revolutionary, like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and The Mitchells vs. the Machines. When it's done right, it can do amazing things. However, this philosophy is not a perfect formula, and not even Phil and Chris could make this work all the time. When it's not handled well, the movie ends up focusing too much on its own style that it thinks that the style is the substance, giving little to no attention to some of the more important components like the quality of its storytelling and character development. And as a result, the philosophy ends up sabotaging the movie by making it feel bland and tasteless, while in return, makes the style that it desperately cares so much about worthless and lose all of its unique appeal. Unfortunately, that is what happened to America. The film wants to be this raunchy and dumb comedy so bad that it sacrifices so much of its own quality just to fit in as many of these ridiculous jokes as they can. And because the focus is only on the comedy, it ruins all the other aspects that the movie has to offer. The plot of George Washington avenging Abe Lincoln by freeing the country from Benedict Arnold and the Brits becomes dull and unengaging. The characters have all their charm taken away from them, and the world building of this frat house vision of 18th century America feels wasted. Now, all of this could have been salvaged, and the movie could still work if the comedy itself is worthwhile, that the jokes are still funny enough to make the movie entertaining. But here's the biggest problem. The feature is not funny. I don't know about you, but from my experience, I never laughed once throughout this picture. For the most part, they constantly repeat the same joke again and again and again and again by pointing out how ridiculous they're handling the historic revisionism by either being inappropriately raunchy, highly violent, showing off stereotypes, or throwing in a random pop culture reference.
Your brain's just like, yo, we must have won that shit, right? That's the definition of privilege right there.
You want to get through to them? You'd have to put your message in like, I don't know, the dumbest thing possible, like a cartoon or something.
There are technically moments when they do add some topical commentary about some of America's controversial history or their viewpoints on guns and racism, but the film is not smart enough to actually make a point with them or have something to say. Like everything else, they're nothing more than just materials for the bad comedy. And because it failed on making its main focus to work, That's what resulted in the whole experience to feel frustrating and quickly annoying with every minute. And the saddest thing of all this is that this movie's concept could have actually worked. It does have all these ideas that could have made the world and the plot enjoyably easy to get into with this drunken college bro's interpretation of how America was founded. But all that becomes meaningless when the only thing this wants to be is some Adult Swim-style comedy, and it's too unaware to realize that it's not even doing a good job. You'd think that the combo of the creators of Archer, the Lego Movie, and The Expendables would have been perfect to craft a story like this, but it turned out to be a recipe for disaster that values its terrible style of comedy over substance. The animation. Not only does it want to feel like an Adult Swim show, but it wants to look like one too. I will say that the animation is a pretty interesting case here. Of course, it does count as a 2D feature, but it's not necessarily a hand-drawn film. This is where the Archer aspect comes into play, where the series' animation style is similarly used here. Everything was crafted digitally, and the characters are made with 3D models, but they were all specifically crafted to make sure the overall look remains 2D. While the movements are sometimes more limited, but can have its stronger moments to present the characters as wildly expressive, they compensate that with more detail in the designs, emulating the style of Golden Age comic books made by Jack Kirby with a realistic approach, but exaggerate the body portions to give the men bigger muscles and the women bigger busts, along with the freedom of refining the smaller aspects of their look like with the costumes. But what is possibly the most impressive part of the movie is with the backgrounds, the way that it combines some modern aesthetics to the period of America's beginnings to enhance the world of the country if it were more obsessed with beer and boobs. However, the one flaw with them is that the film values quantity over quality. As fun as it can be to go around these places, they don't spend enough time to let the environments be immersive. It has all these scenarios and gags it has to go through that the plot has to keep moving and not stay long enough to let the audience feel like they're in that world. But, as it is action-oriented, the visual highlights of the film are the action scenes, when Washington and his gang go all out against the British with crazy weapons and creative, bloody, and fast-paced moments to keep the mood exciting. As fun as they can be, there is a bit of a catch to them. Unfortunately, they are far and few between, so they can't help make the film exciting or help the engagement in any capacity. And even if the climax can be considered the starring moment of the film by letting out all of its creativity, you feel so burnt out after more than an hour's worth of terrible jokes that it's hard to even care about anything they present. Also, I just want to add that I get that the animation is the Archer style, and it can look great for the show, but that's the problem. It's great for a series that needs that limited type animation, but when used on an animated feature, it feels like it only has the resources for a made-for-TV film, and lessens the value of that work. It doesn't help either that the style emphasizes the feeling that this is meant more for an Adult Swim show than a movie with many prominent names working on it. There's been a lot better animation on Netflix, but this is the only thing in this movie that can be considered passable. The characters. As it is all about America, you'd think they put in care to make the heroes these great and lovable characters that you want to get behind to see them flip the middle finger at the British and claim the country as their own. That would be nice, but too bad this movie is so preoccupied with wanting to be stupid with its comedy to not even care about the people who are delivering the jokes. That priority causes the cast to be stuck with their one character trait and let the humor make them unpleasant to be around. George Washington, for example, is the leading party guy who wants to avenge the death of his best friend, Abraham Lincoln, but is often not too bright.
Best that you not know, Mr. Smith.
Why do you keep calling me Mr. Smith?
Well, Revere called you Blacksmith.
Right, because I'm a blacksmith.
Right, a blacksmith.
A blacksmith.
Blacksmith.
Along his side, there's Samuel Adams, another party guy whose stupidity causes him to have bigoted views on any non-white males that he encounters, Paul Revere, the geeky horse lover who never had human friends, Geronimo, the straight man who has to deal with the idiocy of the white guys, and Thomas Edison, a Chinese immigrant who is the only smart person of the group that wants to help the world with science.
There is nothing wrong with my skin. I'm Chinese.
Huh?
I'm from China.
Huh?
I'm an immigrant. I came here from another country, like you.
Oh, no!
Additionally, there is Martha, George's wife, who is a motivator to fight against the British, and John Henry, the blacksmith that is the token black guy of the film. Together, they must fight against the villainous forces of Benedict Arnold, who betrayed the American leaders to team up with England, which made him become disgustingly evil and posh, all while working for the movie's version of Emperor Palpatine, King James. Oh, and he has the ability to turn into a werewolf.
You're better than this.
You're right. I am.
In terms of their personalities, that's all there is to say, and collectively, or at least most of them, they make the experience irritating. Since the movie's comedy is all about being unapologetically stupid, and many of them are stupid, it results in them being unpleasant as much as the humor is. At best, I could say that the actors did well on their part and did the most they can to deliver a solid performance, but the materials they were given is so bad that not even they can do anything to help strengthen their characters or help the movie gain some form of quality. The characters are nothing more but a reflection and a personification of the movie's comedy, and I can guarantee you that is not a good thing. It takes a special skill to make stupid look smart. It's not easy, but it is possible to take stupidity and turn it into quality entertainment that can make you laugh and could even make you think. America the Motion Picture, however, is so stupid that it has no idea of how stupid it is, valuing so much of its comedic style over any form of substance that results in one of the most irritating animated features to watch. Yes, the animation can be decent. Yes, the voice acting is fine. But with such terrible writing that disregards both its story and its characters to deliver a large quantity of really bad and cringy jokes, it's not only one of the dumbest, but one of the worst Netflix animated movies you could find. I know some may say that maybe the Adult Swim fans could get into this since they are used to this kind of comedy, but even at that, there are still better options out there that are funnier with that style of humor. And even as a satirical take on America or a modern interpretation of the founding of the country, what's the point of watching this when there's Team America and Hamilton that do what this movie wanted to do, but are actually good at it? I cannot tell a lie. This turned out to be way worse than I could ever expect, and that is why I'm giving this the Animat seal of garbage. Who knew that America could be so infuriating?
God, we're gonna fuck this up, aren't we?